What do you say? What do you know? It's the full Monty Sports Show. It is Sunday, December 12th, 2020. I am your host, Monty Perez, aka the Sports Whisperer. You can follow me on all sorts of social media. Monty Perez on Instagram, Monty Perez 2 on Instagram, Monty Perez on Facebook, and on Twitter, Monty JP231. I want to thank everyone for tuning in last week. We had 35 states tune in across the country. I want to thank each and every one of you for making the full Monty Sports Show live on YouTube, the number 3 trending show on YouTube. That's right. We are number 3 on YouTube. Hopefully, over the next couple of weeks, over the next couple of months, we can get to number 1. That is our goal. Our goal is to do this 5 days a week. And I can only do that with your help. So if you like this show, you like sports and comedy, tell your friends, tell your family members, and of course, our full Monty Sports Show drinking game. Every time I mention one of these names or one of these sayings, you take a shot of coffee, you take a shot of your mimosa, or it's a happy hour somewhere. So thank you, Laura, for making that. Each week, we have the best guests all across the country. This week is no exception. In about 20 minutes, Karita Parks is going to join us to talk about the Washington Wizards basketball team and the Washington football team, who is still in the hunt for the playoffs. And also at 5:45, Keith Rich is going to join us to talk about the Denver Nuggets and the Denver Broncos. We got NBA stuff going on. We got NFL stuff going on. At the top of the hour, Rico, show me the money. Graziano is going to join us. Listen, Rico has been dominating. He lost last week, but he's still 9-3 against the spread. 9-3 against the spread. So props to Rico. For anyone who bets, we do not shy away from gambling on this show, and Rico's doing a tremendous job. But first, let's start our journey today with this. Now, I just have to preface by saying, the way that I look at relationships are a lot like being in a hammock. Once you're in the hammock, it's fun, it's relaxing, you feel good, but getting out of them is a disaster. Getting out of a hammock and getting out of relationships can be painful. It's not easy. It's a total train wreck. So last week, I told you about the woman I took out to dinner. And on our first date, she ordered lobster tails. Now, she tells me after just 2 months that she wants us to go out to dinner with her parents. Now, her parents lived in Iowa in the summer, and they lived in Bayonne, New Jersey in the winter. Now, people don't want to live in Bayonne, New Jersey in the summer, much less the winter. And I never understood why someone would say, hey, we're going at it hot and heavy. We're getting along. Let's bring my 2 parents who are conservative, who are religious, who are extremely Catholic into the mix. Like that's going to, help the relationship. So the plan was they lived in Bayonne. I lived in Cliffside Park. We were going to take the Uber to Cliffside Park and meet her parents for dinner. Now, before we went out to dinner, she was going to take her mom right across the street to a handbag store and buy her mom a handbag for her birthday. So we get into Uber and we tell the Uber driver we're going to Madison's in Hoboken. Madison's in Hoboken is a great restaurant. It's the first restaurant as you get into Hoboken. Now, I've driven for Uber. I understand what it's like to drive for Uber. But something we must address here. Every time you get into an Uber car or a Lyft car, they want to tell you what they really do with their lives. They're not really an Uber driver. They're not really a Lyft driver. And you never see this anywhere else in life. You never see someone say, you go to a fast food restaurant and, you go to Wendy's and the cashier says, yeah, I'm just doing this part-time. I'm really an actress waiting on a callback. But you get into an Uber car and they want to tell you their life story. So we get in the car, we tell the Uber driver, hey, listen, we're going to Madison's. And he says, love that place, used to go all the time. But right now, because of my other job, I can't go that often. Now I feel my girlfriend at the time wanting to ask the question, wanting to ask the question. And I squeeze her hand and I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it. And what does she say? So, how long have you been an Uber driver and what's your other job? Oh, don't do this. Don't do this. I do not want to have a conversation with this man. And what does the guy say? What does he say? Now, his car was beat up. He was about 200 pounds overweight. He smelled like cigarettes. And what does he say his other job is? I'm a life coach. It's what I do. I start laughing uncontrollably, like I'm high on something. I am laughing hysterically. Laughing hysterically. And I say to the guy, how long have you been a life coach? And he says, 5 years. And I laugh again. And I say, you need to hire yourself so you could stop driving for Uber. So my girlfriend smacks my knee and they start talking. And all I hear is wah, 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 like the Charlie Brown teacher character. Because in my mind, I start to daydream. I start to daydream not only about this guy's life, okay, not only about this guy's life, but I start to daydream about the clients that he actually has. So I visualize this. Imagine you are drinking alone on New Year's Eve. You get drunk. You wake up with nachos on the side of your face. Now, the number one day for dating websites, is January 1st and February 15th. Why? Because people feel lonely if they don't do anything, if they're drinking alone on Valentine's Day or New Year's Eve. So the number one dating websites, their number one day for places like eHarmony are again January 1st and February 15th. So this guy's client gets up, bear with me here, he gets up and he says, you know what, I'm going to sign up for eHarmony. You fill out the 100 questionnaire and then eHarmony rejects you. Yeah, that happened to me. When I moved to LA, I signed up for eHarmony. I filled out the 100 questionnaire. I'm ready to pay with my credit card and they reject me. And here's the worst part. I was 100% honest. I was 100% honest in my questionnaire. When eHarmony, a paying website, says you're undateable, what do you do? Okay, so this guy, he has a client, and the client, can't get onto eHarmony. He finally, after a month of having this life coach, he feels a little better about himself. His friends say, hey, you're going to come out. It's been a month. He's like, yeah, come pick me up. They pick him up. He gets into the car. And who does he see? He sees his life coach. And not only that, you have a better car than your life coach because this guy's car was a disaster. He smelled like cigarette. If this happens to you, and I respect life coaches, but if this guy is your life coach, there's only one thing to do. You need to commandeer the car and drive it off the bridge because you have failed miserably. Is anyone following me on this story? Okay, let me move on. So we get to Madison's and I meet the parents outside and she takes her mom to go get a handbag and the dad says, let's go in and get a drink. He says, what are you having? And I say, I will have a Pinot Grigio. He says, not on my watch, you won't. He goes, hey, Shelly, give us 2 shots of whiskey and 2 brews and keep them coming. Now, first of all, the girl's name tag said Sherry. So he calls her Shelly. But can we just, take in what we just heard here? 2 shots and 2 brews and keep them coming. Are we in an 1800 saloon? Are we in an 1800 saloon? So then he says to me, out of nowhere, can I ask you a few questions? I said, shoot. He goes, I'm glad you said shoot. Do you own a gun? No, sir, I do not own a gun. How are you going to protect my daughter? I said, protect your daughter from what? He goes, bullets. I said, I can't even protect your daughter from rain. I don't even own an umbrella. Last week we got into an argument because we had to go out and I didn't have an umbrella. He doesn't laugh. He doesn't smile. He says, I own 58 guns. What is he, Arnold Schwarzenegger from Terminator 2? You own 58 guns? He goes, yes. He goes, let me tell you something. If a robber came in right now, if a robber came in right now, you think with your fancy sneakers you'd be able to outrun a bullet? I said, no, sir. All I need to do is outrun you. Nothing. No smiles, no laughter. He goes, how are you going to protect my daughter? I said, sir, your daughter is very flexible. Now, first of all, you don't ever want to tell a dad that their daughter is flexible, but this was nothing disrespectful. There was no innuendo here. His daughter was a gymnast. She played volleyball, but I said, we're into the matrix right now. Maybe she could dodge some bullets. Nothing, nothing, no laughter. This guy hates me from jump. So I try to calm him down. I said, sir, I assure you, no one who dates me ever feels not safe. I can handle myself. I can protect your daughter. Just then, the mom comes in with the daughter. We sit down. The dad says to the waitress, hey, Shelly, give us 4 shots and 4 brews and keep them coming. Now, the waitress name is Lisa. And I said, I think her name's Lisa. And the daughter says, my dad calls everyone Sherry. What? What? Yeah, he calls everyone Sherry. It's kind of his thing. So then the mom says, as we get the beer and shots, they take the shots. I guess it's like a tradition. So I do the shot. The mom says, I'll tell you another thing, Marty. And I look at the dad and I say, I thought your name was John. And she goes, no, I'm talking to you. She's like, I don't like the name Monte. I'm just going to call you Marty. Okay, this is really, really, really weird. I'll tell you another thing, Marty. First of all, when you say I'll tell you another thing, you're in the middle of a conversation. The only thing I said to this woman was nice to meet you. But somehow in her head, she's having a conversation. So she says, we will never get a mail slot on our house. We've had 3 houses. None of them have mail slots. We all have mailboxes. And the dad says, when you guys get married, I'll build you a mailbox. Yeah. Listen, this is the weirdest conversation I ever had because she's starting a conversation that I never knew took place. And I said, why don't you want a mail slot? She goes, because your neighbors could put rodents in there, snakes, and the pizza delivery guy can put pizza in there. What? What? I said, who are your neighbors? And first of all, if they did that, I'm sure John would take out one of his 58 guns and scare the hell out of them. She's like, yeah, I'm always afraid that the pizza delivery guy, if I had one of those, would put the pizza in the mail slot. This is not a normal conversation, people. And yet it gets weirder. So we start having dinner, and the song In My Mind, I'm Going to Carol. I can't do it any justice. James Taylor, Carolina in My Mind. The mom grabs the husband's hands. They look at each other. They smile, and they kiss each other. So I say, is that your wedding song? That's very nice. Great moment. And she says, no, that's the song we first made love to on our honeymoon. I literally spit the beer out of my mouth. Then she says, do you remember the first time you made love? The song that was playing? Without hesitation. I said, yeah, I do. I said, I was in high school. The circus was in town. Me and my high school sweetheart drank. We got drunk for the first time because our parents were at a birthday party. So before we went to the circus, we got drunk. The next thing I know, I wake up, we're in a tent. I hear da 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 da, and she's kissing me. And they're like, oh, what a beautiful moment. I'm like, no, because I still remember her beard. It was the bearded lady. She took advantage of me. Nothing. Nothing. No jokes. No laughter. Come on, that's funny. I tell them that I lost my virginity at a circus to the bearded lady, and then I even follow it up because I'm like, is this thing on? And I say, hey, you have a lot of circuses in Iowa. Can I go there one time? Because I want to reconnect with her. Nothing. No laughter. Nothing. I'm dying. I'm sweating. And it gets worse. We're just about to order dessert. The dad looks at me and he sneezes right at me, all over my face. Can you imagine if this happened today with COVID-19? I would literally beat the guy with my shot glass. Sneeze all over me. All over me. I mean, it was the wettest sneeze in the world. I look at my girlfriend. I look at the dad and I say, "Are you at?" And she grabs my hand and she takes me to the bar, and we're going to stop there to be continued next week. You do not want to miss next week's the finish of that story. All right, we start each show with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's start with the good. Okay, Russell Wilson is so clutch and so underrated. Wilson is now he has 30 wins and 8 losses and 1 tie in prime time. That is the best in NFL history. When the lights are shining the brightest, when Wilson is playing the best team, because let's face it, these primetime games are the best teams. He's 30 and 8 and 1. You know who's second? Legendary quarterback Steve Young, 23 and 7. And Ken, the Snake Stabler from the Raiders, is 15-5 and 1. So look, can we just give Russell Wilson his due? On Thursday nights, he's now 11 and 1 on short rest, and he's 38 and 1 in prime time. People want to call him lucky. People want to say he's not good. Russell Wilson, when the lights are brightest, performs the best. Now, to the bad. Look, Steeler fans, you're not going to like this. Okay? And we're going to talk about this with Rico, Show Me the Money, Graziano. You are not going to like this. The Steelers defense lost Devin Bush and Bud Dupree. It doesn't look good. You never want to see players injured, but these two guys losing are huge. Look, the Steelers can't run the ball, and now their defense is going to be decimated. So the Steelers, although they're undefeated, they are not the best team in the NFL. They are not the best team in the NFL, and they are in trouble. Now to the ugly. Okay, so the Green Bay Packers lost the NFC Championship last year. They are 8-3 now. What did they do in this offseason? They go out and they acquire backup quarterback from Utah State, Jordan Love. They didn't get Stephon Diggs. They didn't get DeAndre Hopkins because they need a wide receiver. They didn't go out and get a defense. Look, Blake Martinez is a tackling machine. He has 101 tackles with the Giants. The Packers have failed miserably in their draft picks, and I'm tired of it. Get Aaron Rodgers some help. They have not drafted a skill position player since 2005. What that means in the first round, they haven't drafted a wide receiver, a running back, a tight end. Can you get the guys some damn help? Disgusting what the Packers are doing with Aaron Rodgers. And that's the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right, guys, listen, we go around the league every week, okay, and I pick the games that are being played other than the games that the guests talk about. And you see the 59 there? I'm 95, 36, and 1, 59 games above 500. 59 games above 500. I'm getting it done, and I'm going to get it done for you right now. So let's get to it. The 2-8-1 Bengals at the 7-4 Dolphins. Look, I think Tua's going to start again. He's been hurt. We were worried about Tua, the quarterback out of Alabama, because of his injury. He missed a few games. He's coming back. They play the Bengals. Take the Dolphins here, 23-15. 6-5 Raiders at the 0-11 Jets. Vegas is coming off a disgusting 43-6 loss to the Falcons. They should be focused, even though they're playing at an 0-11 team. Take the Raiders here, 31-17. 1-10 Jags at the 5-6 Vikings. The Vikings have won 4 out of 5 after starting 1-5. Dalvin Cook is dealing with a hamstring issue, but he's good to go. The Vikings need to keep winning. Take the Vikes here, 27-16. 7-4 Colts at the 4-7 Texans. Houston is 4-3 with head coach Romeo Crennel. They were 0-4 with Bill O'Brien before he was fired. The Texans are without their star wide receiver Will Fuller, who's been suspended for PED use. Take the Colts here, 23-16. Now, 4-7 Lions at the 5-6 Bears. The Lions fired Matt Patricia and their general manager. The Bears have won 5 straight games against the Lions. Listen, this is the question on who's going to be motivated or not, right? Who's going to be motivated for this game? I was going to go with the Lions here just because I think Matthew Stafford will make some plays, but I can't do it. I can't pick the Lions. My friend Andrea talked me out of this one, and since I'm 59 games above 500, I'm going to go with the Bears here, 23-17. 23-17. Saints take on the 9-2 Saints take on the 4-7 Falcons. Look, Matt Ryan got sacked 8 times last time they played the Saints. I think they'll make some adjustments, but the Saints allowed one offensive TD in their since week 9. Since week 9. Matt Ryan looked like a deer in headlights. Look, I think the Falcons will adjust to Taysom Hill, but I still think you got to take the Saints here, 22-17 in a game that's not going to be pretty to watch. The 4-7 Giants travel to the 8-3 Seahawks. Look, we talked about this. I think Russell Wilson last game did not play great. I think he's going to have a phenomenal game this week, and I think the Seahawks are going to roll here. Listen, the Seahawks have 19 sacks over the last 4 weeks. That's 5 more than any team in the NFL. 19 sacks the Seahawks have. So take them here, 29-17. 29-17. Packers at the Eagles. Remember last year, the Eagles ran the ball down the Packers' throat. The Eagles literally dominated time of possession, and the way to beat the Packers is to run the ball. That's the way to beat it, but I think the Packers win a close one here, 27-20. The question is Carson Wentz going to be benched for Jalen Hurts, the rookie who played at Alabama and then went to Oklahoma last year? Jalen Hurts is waiting in the wing. Don't be surprised if they lose here. They sit Carson Wentz for the rest of the year. 5-6 Patriots at the 3-8 Chargers. Coming into this season, QBs with a 1 or 2 years into the league are 4-10 against Bill Belichick. Kyler Murray struggled last week and they lost. Don't look now, but if the Patriots win, they're 6-6. If the Patriots win, they're 6-6. Take the Patriots here, 23-19. Now, we talked about the Steelers. They play the Washington football team. We're going to get into that with Karita Parks in a few minutes. So there you have the entire NFL picking. And listen, guys, you can make fun of me all you want. But when you have 59% over 500, it's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good. Oh, I forgot one game. I'm sorry. I forgot the Cowboys and the Ravens. Look, I'm going to take the Ravens. They've been struggling. They started 5-1. They lost 4 of the last 5. But I can't believe that the Ravens don't get it right against the Dallas Cowboys. I can't believe they don't get it right. So take the Ravens 27-20. And again, that's what we do. We go around the NFL, 59 games above 500. And now let's do something we love to do. Let's surf the crowd, see what's going on with my opening story. Yes. Yes, people talking about coronavirus and all the Yes, it's a true story. When I moved to California, I got rejected from eHarmony. I filled out the 100 questionnaire and I was going to pay the $59.95. I just moved to California. I didn't know anybody. So eHarmony, I was 100% honest in my questions. I had my credit card ready and eHarmony said, "Monte, I'm sorry. We will not take your money because you are undateable." How can you think this is undateable? But yeah, eHarmony. eHarmony rejected me. All right, let's bring on one of our favorite guests, Karita Parks. How are you today? Thanks so much for joining the full Monte Sports Show. How are you?
I'm good. Still laughing about that eHarmony. Jeez.
No, it's a true story. They literally, let me get your background up. I moved to California, and they basically just said, "Yeah, you're undateable. We're not going to take your money." And here's the thing: I filled out the questionnaire, and I was 100% honest. Most people lie. I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to be honest," and they rejected me. They wouldn't even accept my money.
You know what? That's their fault. You were being honest.
That's it. That's it. Their loss. Their loss. All right, Karita, let's get right to this. Want to talk about the Washington Wizards. They just acquired Russell Westbrook. I know you are a huge John Wall fan. Talk about what this means. I think automatically the Wizards are now a 45-win team minimum. You could say whatever you want about Russell Westbrook. Doesn't shoot the three. There are 2 things that Russell Westbrook brings to a community. He's going to work in the inner cities to help the community, and he's going to play close to 78 to 80 games, and he's going to give it his all. How do you feel about the trade?
I I do agree. I mean, it was difficult losing a player like John Wall. He was very connected with the city. He's been here since he was drafted. 10-year history, and then also the trade was very sudden for most people. So that it was a hard loss. But when you take the emotion out of it and you do look at the decision, so much of the Wizards' success was contingent on if John Wall is healthy. Now you have Westbrook and you don't have that question because he should be healthy and they should automatically be able to contend now. And I really think that that was the purpose of the trade, to make them automatic contenders, because John hadn't played in 2 years. You really don't know what you're getting, even though we saw some of his practice, but you just don't know how he's going to perform after 2 years. So I think they went with the more guaranteed option.
Listen, I think that one thing we know, John Wall, both of these players are on their back nine of their careers, but John Wall is like on the 16th hole, where Russell Westbrook last year, over 27 points, 7 assists. You know what you're getting with him. I think it was time to move on for John Wall. I think people kind of look like John Wall, like they looked at Derrick Rose, like he had 1 or 2 years, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy. I think this is a great move for Washington. What's been the talk around the community? Are they positive or are they negative? Forget about the fact that they love John Wall. He was an icon there. What are they talking about basketball-wise on the court, what this means to them?
Well, it's still going to take some time for the community to get used to this. I mean, because of the way he gave back and just being so integrated into the community. So it's going to take a while for fans to adjust. But Russell Westbrook, he had his first media availability yesterday. And honestly, I was very impressed. I liked what he expressed about how he is on the court. You know, he was like, I'm not trying to be friendly. I'm not trying to make friends. He was like, I'm trying to go out there and bust somebody's you know what. So it was just, I loved that mentality, and it showed the hunger and kind of like that dog attitude. And I think that that's going to be great for the Wizards because they need someone with that mentality, I think, to take them up a notch. So also he talked about how much he likes to give back to community and that his legacy is more contingent on what he does for people versus winning a championship. So while we lost a community guy, it sounds like we also gained a community guy, which I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Westbrook does a lot of things that I do not like on the court. I think sometimes no one wants to play with a guy who dribbles, and then you just got to wait around. He's a lot like Allen Iverson in that way, obviously much more of an athlete. But one thing Westbrook brings, you play against him, you could be his best friend off the court. He's going to try to assassinate you on the court. I think he brings a toughness. He has that mentality. I'm not going to miss practice. I'm not going to miss games. That is something that this team needs. And look, I got to be honest with you. I am not a fan of their head coach. Last 3 years, 43 and 39, 32 and 50, 25 and 47. What can you say the best thing about Scott Brooks, and what don't you like about him?
You know, I think the best thing about Scott Brooks is he is very patient. He's dealing with a young team. And in his defense, the 2 years that he had a lot of success was when John and Brad were playing together. The past 2 seasons where he hasn't had as much success, John was hurt. Then there was also the huge trade of Kelly Oubre and Austin Rivers in the middle.
I don't understand that trade. I don't understand trading Kelly Oubre.
To this day, I don't like that trade. Like, that trade still bothers me till this day. It didn't make the team better. It kind of blew up the team in the middle of the season. So he had to deal with that. And then last year, he just had a bunch of young players. So there wasn't a lot he could do but develop them. So I do like the fact that he stays positive and he seems like a guy who's patient with developing the team. If you ask me what I don't like about him, maybe he's a little too relaxed. You know, sometimes, and I only see the open portions of practice, so I don't see what happens behind closed doors.
He's a player's coach, though, right? Players love him.
Right. He's a player's coach. But I don't know whether or not he like really gets up in them when they don't do something they're supposed to do, you know, so I think he could be a little too relaxed in that sense. But like I said, I only see the open portions of practice. And of course, he's not going to be acting too lively during those portions. But just in my observations, I think that he remains extremely positive. So that's a good trait, but also can be a negative trait.
Okay, so walk me through this. Okay, the Brooklyn Nets are going to be very good. The Boston Celtics are going to be very good. We know Toronto's very well coached. Okay, I mean Milwaukee's going to be better. Miami could go to the finals again, and I think Doc Rivers. I don't think Doc Rivers is a great coach, but he definitely turns teams around from losing mentality to winning mentality. So with Westbrook and Beal, best case scenario, we're looking at a seventh and eighth seed. They're not going to be better than Miami, Toronto, Milwaukee, Boston, or Brooklyn. Would you agree with that assessment?
I would agree. I think that they would be a seventh or eighth seed, but at the end of the day, that's better than nothing. They didn't make the playoffs this season. They didn't make the playoffs last season. So just getting into the seventh or eighth seed gives them an opportunity to make a run, maybe to the second round. I'll give them like first or second round. But
okay, you just said at the end of the day. So for people who watch this show, when you hear end of the day, feel free to take a shot of your coffee. Take a
really,
shot of mimosa. Yes, this is our little bingo card here. Anytime I talk about LeBron James, Rex Ryan, I'm not a Saints fan. And at the end of the day, so thank you for that. So, okay, I get what you're saying. They're good. Best case scenario, we agree seventh or eighth seed. But when you bring in a Russell Westbrook and you're a seventh and eighth seed, that means you're not going to get a high draft pick. Can we argue that it's time to rebuild this team and maybe bringing Westbrook in, they should have traded Wall for some draft picks and young players? It doesn't seem like they know what they're doing, because the worst thing in the NBA is to be the seventh, eighth seed, because you're not going to get a lottery pick.
I mean, I honestly think right now they're trying to focus more on pleasing Bradley Beal, who they deem as their franchise player. So I think their focus right now is bringing someone in who could help them win. And that's what they did. I don't know that they are focusing right now on the draft picks. And honestly, they have enough young players on that team. Most of the players are under 25.
Can we say that Bradley Beal, he was the leader of that team last year? He's a very good two-way player. I think he's a better version of CJ McCollum from Portland. Can you say that this is Bradley Beal's team? We know that it was James Harden's team, and they appeared to play well in the regular season, but they looked lost in the postseason. Can we say that Bradley Beal is the leader, or is he going to take a step back and let Russell be the leader?
This is Bradley Beal's team right now. But to your point, they brought in Russell Westbrook to complement Bradley Beal, but I think it could be very possible that Russell Westbrook could potentially outshine Bradley Beal. I don't know. So we will see. But right now it's Bradley Beal's team.
I thought Bradley did a tremendous job last year, taking over the team, guarding the best player on defense, taking the big shots down the stretch. So I would say record-wise, anything over 45 is a positive, and you're saying seventh and eighth seed, correct?
Yes.
Okay, let's move to the Washington football team. 4-7, tied for first place. Very impressive win, Thanksgiving, 41-16. Is this now Alex Smith's team?
Yes. Alex Smith gives this team the best chance to win. Since he's been in the game, it took some time to actually put a W in the column, but he immediately moved the offense down the field and put them in position to make some plays, which we saw be a struggle in the first couple of games. Kyle Allen moved the team a little better, but I think Alex Smith's veteran presence and just his knowledge of the game has definitely rubbed off on the rest of the offense.
Yeah, no, listen, he's definitely the comeback player of the year. Some people were saying Big Ben after you see his surgeries. I think it's them and the Giants are the two best teams right now. The Giants, obviously, Daniel Brown's injury is going to hurt them. But I think both of these teams have a legitimate shot of making the playoffs. And I want to talk about this defense because nationally, no one's talking about them. Fifth in total yards, first in pass in a vertical passing league. They're only giving up 195 passing yards per game. What is the secret to this defensive success?
So I think that they are starting to better mesh in Jack Del Rio's system. This defense has always been good on paper. And the way we saw them perform against the Cowboys is the way I expected them to perform all season. They've been a little inconsistent up and down. They've had good games, they've had bad games, but the Cowboys was definitely their best game. And I expect for that to continue moving forward. But they've always been good on paper. And adding Chase Young was just supposed to be like that additional chess piece, but that didn't make the whole difference. It was already there. So I just think that we're finally seeing them mesh in Jack Del Rio's system, and maybe he's learning his guys better and like what their strengths are. So we're like kind of at the midpoint of the season, and I think we're just starting to finally see them have a groove.
Listen, part of the reason why I got rejected from Harmony, I thought this was what the F. But is there any hinting to what the name is going to be?
So from what I'm hearing, at least for next season, the name is still going to be the Washington football team.
So they're going to do that for 2 years?
That's what I'm seeing. Now, I will say this because I don't know if people know this, but I am a journalist, but also my background is public relations, so PR. And although it does sound crazy that they're keeping this name for 2 years, like making a name change is something that does take a while, especially in this case. Like they need to do everything right, and there's so much more to it. Like they're going to have to make sure the trademarking is there, and this is going to really be the name that takes them into the future. So I'm not in complete disagreement that it may be Washington football team next season, but I'm also not fully convinced that they're going to change the name.
Now, would you say that part of the reason to do this is to make it 2 or 3 years is so that the memorabilia and the jerseys, those could be collector's items. So maybe 2 years is actually better, but wouldn't it be better for just 1 year? Because, oh my goodness, they only made them for 1 year.
Well, yeah, I mean, you would have liked for them to have a name by now, but they got a new team president this season. They just hired a new like vice president or president of communications. So there's still like positions that have been filled throughout this season, and all of those people need to have a say so on what the name is going to be. So I think that the fact that everyone really who needs to be a part of that decision wasn't in place this season is also part of the reason why we're going to see it carry over to next season.
Well, and part of the reason was a lot of the upper management was let go or quit or resign for the decades of the article came out right before the season. So you bring up great points. How about this? Let's break this game down. John Meyer, bold prediction. The Washington football team 21-20. Break this game down for us. Look, I said in the opening, the Steelers lost their two best defensive players. The Steelers can't run the ball. They threw it over 50 times against the Ravens. Break this game down. I think Washington has a very good chance here. Am I crazy for saying that?
I do too, actually. This time I'm going to go with my instinct. I'm not going to overthink it. And my instinct tells me that Washington may pull off the upset. The Steelers, they didn't look good last week. They were going through the whole COVID-19 situation. They are still dealing with that. I think that they're tired. They just played on Wednesday. And like I said, they've had a lot going on in the past 2 weeks as it relates to COVID. So they're not at full strength. And as you mentioned, they lost Bud Dupree. I really think that Washington can pull this off, but they have to be clicking on all cylinders, and they have to reduce the mistakes. They cannot have turnovers in this game, and they need to pressure Ben Roethlisberger and make him uncomfortable in the pocket because he's known to throw interceptions when he's uncomfortable, and that creates turnovers, and they need turnovers to also help them win this game.
So, Karita, I say this every year. Obviously, this year is different. I grew up a Knicks fan. It was like an arranged marriage. My older brothers and dad were Knicks fans. I grew up a Jet fan. I have not watched a Jet game in 2 years. I stopped watching the Knicks every December. And the reason why is because I love the NBA. I have the NBA League Pass. I love watching football. And the bottom line is the ownership of the Knicks is so bad. How do you support a team? Because I know a lot of Dallas Cowboy fans can't, and everyone wants to talk about America's team. That's BS. The Dallas Cowboys have not been there since 1995 in the NFC Championship. How do you love a team explain this to people where Snyder is literally one of the worst owners in sports.
I think it's a difficult situation because he's the owner, right? Like there's not a lot of moves that can be made to get him out of that position. He has to actually decide that he wants to move on from the team, and he doesn't seem like he's going to do that anytime soon. So really no one has control over whether he owns the team or not. So I think you just have to suck it up. And if you like this football team, you just have to support them. And, I agree. There's been a lot of decisions that he's made that over the years that have not been good decisions. But I think Washington football fans have to find hope somewhere. And I think they're finding a little hope in some of the changes that have been made this season with Coach Rivera. And then you have Julie Donaldson, who is like the first female in a radio booth. And then
I think I think over the past year, because of all those sexual allegation stories and harassment stories, I think he was forced to make a change. I say this all the time about James Dolan of the Knicks. If he just let the guys do their job instead of always trying to meddle and make headlines. Remember a few years ago, Snyder just signed all these old free agents who were way past their prime because he wanted to take headlines. One of the things that I say about Jerry Jones in Dallas is that Jerry Jones wants to give the press conferences, but Jerry Jones is the final decision maker. He's not like Pat Riley or Bill Belichick, who watches hours and hours and hours of film. Right. And I think the same thing with Daniel Snyder. He just wants to be in the headlines. If he just takes a step back, and that brings us to my final point here with Ron Rivera. We know about his cancer treatment, and he's brought a professionalism to this organization that we haven't seen. Talk about Ron Rivera. Do you still like him moving forward? Has he been the right guy for the job?
I do like Ron Rivera. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't quite agree with how he handled the Dwayne Haskins situation. But at the same time, it has panned out to where Alex Smith is back in the driver's seat. And like I said, he's moving the offense, and we're seeing some improvement. So I can respect the fact that Ron Rivera is willing to make decisions that people may not like, but they're decisions that he feels puts the football team in the best position to win. So I could definitely respect that approach. And he's trying to build a winning culture and winning mentality, and I do like that about him.
Yeah, listen, I thought they needed a little bit more offensive guy, but if you look over the years, yes, we're seeing the Sean McVays, the Kyle Shanahans, but Bill Belichick, who's been a defensive genius, has gone to the Super Bowl, numerous times. He's won 15 divisions, so maybe a defensive coach is still the right way to go. So, last question here, putting you on the spot. Does the Washington football team make the playoffs going 6-10, 7-9, or do you think they don't make the playoffs? What's better for this organization? I would say win and make the playoffs so you can have a sense of, hey, man, even though we won our division, let's have a sense of winning instead of getting a draft pick. So would you agree that making the playoffs with this team would be the right move? And will Alex Smith be the quarterback next year?
I absolutely agree that making the playoffs is the right move. This team needs to focus on winning. And like I said, that is the culture that Ron Rivera is trying to build. I don't think he's looking at let's get better draft picks. Like winning, making it to the playoffs puts this team in a better position next year when it comes to believing in the fact that they can win. Also, what was the last part of your question?
Is Alex Smith the quarterback next year, playoffs or not?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think we will see him as the quarterback next year, but I also think Washington will pick up a quarterback somewhere either in the draft or maybe free agency. I don't know if Alex Smith will be the quarterback all next year, but I definitely think we will see him at least in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, see, that's the biggest problem I have. You look at the NFC East, we don't know what's going to happen with Dak Prescott, okay? We don't know what's going to happen with Carson Wentz. And Daniel Jones has been the best quarterback. He's turned over, and now he's injured. So we're looking. One of the reasons why this division has struggled up until recently, there has not been a consistent team on both sides of the ball. But I think Alex Smith for another year, maybe draft a quarterback. He mentored Patrick Mahomes. He mentored Colin Kaepernick. He's like Ryan Fitzpatrick without the mistakes.
Right. And he did. I mean, to your point, he mentored Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick has said, I actually had an opportunity to ask him about it. he talked about how helpful Alex Smith was in making him a professional NFL quarterback. And I think that if we can find a young quarterback for Alex Smith to mentor, that will be good for that young quarterback. And kudos to Alex Smith, because honestly, he has taken over this team, and he does not play like someone who suffered a devastating injury.
No, he looks like a seasoned veteran like he always has.
Exactly. Like, yes, his mobility might be slightly impacted, but just he doesn't seem nervous or jittery, because I would be,
Yeah, of course.
Like, he's been smooth and calm, and I just really respect what he's been able to do.
Karita, final question before you answer how we can follow and support you. People are texting me about that beautiful picture behind you. What is that?
Oh, so I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, and we have a jazz festival every year. And each year there is a piece of artwork to represent the festival. And this particular year, I loved this particular piece. And I asked my friend who worked for the festival if she could get me the poster, and she did. And it's
awesome.
been on my wall ever since. I love it.
People are texting like, I love that background. They want to know what it was. All right, finally, how can we follow you and support your career?
Yes, please follow me at Karita C. Parks. You can find all my work there. And also, I have my own sports media platform. It's called Double Take Sports. So please follow and support that at DBL Take Sports on all.
I tell you every time you're on my show, put your stuff on my Twitter page. I will retweet it so you can get more followers. And thanks so much. Love having you on. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thanks, Monte. I appreciate you.
All right. Take care. That was Karita Parks. Does a tremendous job. Obviously covering the Washington football team. Yeah, I'm shocked that they're going to go with the name at least one more year. But let's give her a round of applause, because every time she comes on, she brings the passion, she brings the knowledge. And listen, I think we're going to have the passion right now, because Keith is chomping at the bits. Keith Richards, thanks so much for joining the Full Monty Show. Let me get your background here. I know you're fired up to talk about the Broncos, and we'll get into that. But first, I want to talk about the Denver Nuggets. Okay, listen, I think this team came into last year a lot of unknowns. Okay, a lot of unknowns. They made it to the Western Conference Finals. Can I say though that if you look at the East, right? We talked about this with Karita. The Boston's going to be better. Philly's going to be better. The Nets are going to be better. Milwaukee's going to be better. Miami's going to be better. I think the only team to improve in the West is the Lakers, because they got 50 points coming to their team and the players they picked up. Did Denver improve, or did they lose a lot?
The honest answer is no. I don't think they did improve. I mean, for sure they didn't surpass the Lakers. The Lakers, to their credit, improved better than any other team in the league, and they were the champions. So that's kind of a lost cause.
Keith, let's talk about that for a second. I know people hate when I talk about the Lakers, but you got to think about this. The last time a team improved that made it to the finals was the Golden State Warriors. They lost to the Cavaliers, and they got Kevin Durant. But the Lakers got four guys in Montrezl Harrell and Dennis Schroeder and Wesley Matthews and Marc Gasol, who are going to average 50 points, 15 rebounds, and like 10 assists. They got a stud. This is the best team LeBron's ever had. Am I wrong in saying that?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, he has had teams with more potential Hall of Famers before, as in, teams with Kyrie, Kevin Love, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. But as far as an actual complete team, I think it's not off base for people to say that Anthony Davis is the best running mate for LeBron, because Anthony Davis's style of play better fits how LeBron plays.
He doesn't need the ball. He can hang it on the wing. And I got to say this because people are going crazy. Oh, my God, Baby Yoda for the win. Who made that?
That's for my little girl, my little 7-year-old. And she gave me this for my birthday as well. I'm all about that Baby Yoda.
That is awesome. People are going crazy with that. All right, let's continue to talk about the Nuggets. Mike Malone, son of Brendan Malone, the head coach. What do you like about him? What don't you like about him?
It's really hard to gauge Mike Malone as a coach, just because I feel like Denver, if they're healthy, has one of the best cores in the league in Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic. The problem is the team hasn't been healthy really for a full season in the past 3, 4, maybe even 5 seasons. It's really hard to judge the team's progression when they can't all play together and progress. I still think they're going to be one of the biggest threats, if not the biggest threat to the Lakers in the West. I still think they're one of the best teams in the league if they can stay healthy and be consistent. But that's the biggest if for the Nuggets every year. Can you be healthy? Can you be consistent? And they just haven't been.
Can I make the argument right now that other than LeBron, he's the point guard, okay? So LeBron and Anthony Davis are the best point guard and big in the NFL, in the NBA. Can I make the argument that Murray and Jokic are the best point guard and big outside of Los Angeles?
I think you can. I mean, of course, I have bias because I live in the Denver area, but I mean, if you just look at it from a number standpoint, last year in the playoffs, Murray and Jokic averaged 50.9 points per game, 12.3 assists per game, 14.6 rebounds per game combined. By comparison, LeBron and AD averaged 55.3 points per game, also 12.3 assists per game, and 18.5 rebounds per game. So there's clearly an advantage on the side of LeBron and AD, but it's not like there's a huge drop-off with Murray and Jokic.
Right.
LeBron, he's going to get older at some point, I think. I don't know.
I don't know when. I don't know when he's going to get older.
He didn't play like it. Someone just brought up they missed Will Barton in the playoffs. Will Barton was a huge miss in the playoffs. Gary Harris started to play better as the playoffs progressed when he got back in, but Will Barton can guard positions 1 through 4, and he would have been just a godsend trying to guard LeBron versus Paul Millsap and Michael Porter Jr. So, I mean, they have –
Keith, what has happened to Gary Harris? Because at one point, I think his second year in the league, he averaged 17 points a game. Then it went down to 13. Then it's down to 10. I mean, what has happened to his career? He was a young and upcoming number 2 guard. Is it because Murray dominates the ball? It seems like Harris is lost with this starting 5.
I think it's because he's a poster child for injuries when it comes to the Nuggets. I think every season for the past 3 or 4 seasons, he's missed significant time, including in the playoffs. So, I mean, we saw in the playoffs this last season, his scoring wasn't quite there, but the team improved dramatically defensively when he was back in the game. The problem is you can't keep counting on him because he's not on the court. Availability is the best ability, and he does not have that ability.
Listen, I want to talk about real quick before we get to the Denver Broncos. We're talking with Keith Richards here on the Full Monty Sports Show live on YouTube. Michael Porter Jr. and Bol. These are 2 people who I thought were absolute steals in the draft. Both of them had significant injuries. They didn't play Bol a lot. I think this is the season with them losing a bunch of players that he plays a lot of games. And I think Michael Porter Jr. could be the third option. Do you agree with that assessment there?
Yeah, I mean, by default, Bol is going to be more significant because they lost Mason Plumlee. So they have no one else behind Jokic. I mean, unless you want to count Paul Millsap, I'm not going to count on Paul Millsap. So by default, Bol is going to be that guy, and I think he deserves to be that guy. I mean, he's shown a lot of talent and a little bit of playing time he had in the bubble. Michael Porter Jr., I think, progressed a long way in the bubble and in the playoffs. They've been so tentative to start him and play him more minutes, which I can't blame him for that because he missed so much time because of injury. But I think he's proven durable and reliable so far. So I think they're going to take that next step and put him in the starting lineup. And just he has to improve defensively. He's still a little bit of a liability there, but
most young players are. Young players are. Kyle Kuzma can't guard anyone.
Yeah. Offensively, he's a walking bucket. I mean, he was draining threes in LeBron's face in the playoffs. So I think they got to give him some more time, let him work on his defense, but he's going to give them 15 to 20 points a game, I think, this season upcoming.
Okay, so finally, are we saying that it's Western Conference Finals for the Nuggets or it's a failed season?
I think it has to be. If they want to prove that they're consistent in any way, they have to at least be where they were last season. Last season was the Western Conference Finals. I mean, you can look at injuries that other teams may have, but I still think they are better than the Rockets or the Warriors or the Clippers. So if they don't make it to the Western Conference Finals, I think that's a disappointing season.
All right, Keith, let's move to something I know you're passionate about. Look, I don't know what the hell happened last week. I don't know why the Broncos had to play a game when 3 of their quarterbacks were injured and they kept moving the Ravens-Steelers game. They got embarrassed 31-3 last week. Should the NFL have postponed that game?
Well, first, I think it's important to point out that the Broncos did fail in their quarterback room with their COVID protocols. There's no denying that. They got careless, all 4 of their quarterbacks. I mean, only 1 tested positive, but 3 were close contact. So they get no sympathy from me from that standpoint. The problem is the Steelers game was moved 3 times because they caught 4 different strains of COVID in their locker room.
Yeah, what the hell is that? It's like the virus is mutating.
And they moved it 3 times, whereas the Broncos literally had to go to their practice squad, get a wide receiver who hasn't been under center in 3 years on a one-day game plan and say, hey, go play that game against the Saints team who hadn't – I think they had allowed 1 touchdown in like 2 or 3 games.
Yep.
I don't know what they expected to happen. Like, he talks about fairness, Goodell, there was no comparative fairness in that game whatsoever.
None.
I mean, the defense kept it as close as they could for as long as they could, but there's only so much you can do when your starting quarterback is 1 for 9 with 2 interceptions.
Yeah, no. And listen, I bring up the Saints every week. That's part of the bingo drinking game, so take a shot, all you fans out there. All right, look, let's talk about it. Vic Fangio. I don't know how to judge this guy. They haven't been healthy. He came in as the Bears defensive coordinator, did a tremendous job with the Bears. What do you like about this guy? What don't you like about him? I'm ready if I'm the Broncos to move off him. Am I on the outside looking at him? I'm done with him, and I'm done with Drew Lock.
And you would be in agreement with half of Colorado at least. I think if they offered him to stay on as defensive coordinator and he obliged, they would be happy to have him back on the team as defensive coordinator. The defense, even with all the injuries, especially missing Von Miller for the season, hasn't really been all that bad this season.
They've been better than expected without Von Miller, right? I mean, they've been competitive.
They have been. The problem is they have no offensive leadership on that team. Pat Shurmur is doing a terrible job running that offense.
I'm surprised. I had high hopes for him.
The biggest problem with the offense is what it has been since Peyton left, which is the offensive line is terrible. They have moments where they look good, but then they have moments where Drew Lock is out there running for his life and missing time because he keeps getting hit every other play. There's not a whole lot the team can do until they fix the offensive line, and Elway seems inept at doing that for the past 3 or 4 years.
You know, Keith, but I look at their trio of running backs. They have talent. I look at their wide receivers. They have talent. Is this a combination of the offensive line and Drew Lock, or is it more that, listen, the offensive line is just terrible, and no quarterback can succeed in that system?
I think it's more that the offensive line is terrible. I mean, we see in games to where, I mean, I'm not going to lie, Drew Lock has regressed a little bit this season. But I can't really blame him for that when I'm watching games and 3 out of 4 plays on a drive, when they're going 3 and out, he's running for his life, being forced to throw off his back foot. He can't properly read the reads on the field. He can't put power into his throw because someone's in his face within a second and a half. I mean, I don't care who you are. You could put Peyton Manning in his heyday behind that offensive line, and he is not going to look good either. It's just not possible.
You know, Brad brings up a point, Monte, you're getting rid of every quarterback. Show some patience. Brad, I'm not going to show patience, and here's why. You look at Justin Herbert dominating, okay, playing great. I have no patience. The Arizona Cardinals hired a coach and drafted Josh Rosen. A year later, they got rid of the coach, and they got rid of him for Kyler Murray. In the NFL right now, you either sink or swim when it comes to quarterbacks. I'm still a fan of Marcus Mariota. To me, Marcus Mariota is an anomaly. He can run. He's athletic. He's accurate. he didn't get the job done. 1 or 2 years in, you know if your quarterback can play. Would you sell or buy stock on Drew Lock if they get the offensive line fixed?
If they get the offensive line fixed, I'm still willing to give Drew Lock another year at least. It's just hard to beat up on him when he makes them throw sometimes. He makes stupid plays, but when you have to play with the mentality of you cannot make any errors, you're going to make errors.
Okay,
quite a bit.
Keith, can I make this argument? Okay, Justin Herbert is the rookie of the year. He's winning and not winning, but he's playing well despite a terrible coach. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league, and Derek Carr is playing off the charts. Can I make the argument, no matter how good Denver's defense is, and this goes directly to John Elway, every time you play a division opponent, like the Browns with Baker Mayfield, you're going up against the fourth best quarterback in the league in Denver. So you're going into the game knowing your quarterback is not going to outplay the other quarterback.
That's true. I mean, that's part of the problem. And I really necessarily put it all. I mean, you have to put a lot of the blame on Drew Lock because he is the quarterback. That's the most important position in football today. But when you have the situation that you have in Denver to where John Elway makes great draft picks in Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, Philip Lindsay, but he doesn't do anything to supplement that. I mean, you can only blame the quarterback so far when he doesn't have much to work with. He doesn't have time to throw. I mean, is he going to be a Hall of Famer, top 5 quarterback of all time? No. Is he good enough to lead the team to the playoffs, kind of kid at a Super Bowl run until someone better comes along? I think he can do that if he's given the right opportunity.
Okay, so let's put all the cards on the table here. If you're John Elway, first of all, talk about John Elway. Talking with Keith, we're going to get Rico on in a couple minutes. Keith, John Elway, other than the Peyton Manning years, John Elway has not done a good job.
He's been a colossal failure other than the Peyton Manning years.
Keep going. Preach on. Preach on.
It's kind of so. I mean, you look at the Peyton Manning years. They did really good that first season. They went to the Super Bowl, went to the Super Bowl again and won it. But outside of that, his draft decisions have been terrible. I mean, we're talking Paxton Lynch, Trevor Siemian, or Brent Osweiler. We don't call him Brock because he doesn't deserve that honor here in Denver.
You know why he drafted Brock Osweiler, right?
Because he looks like the typical quarterback.
No, he was John Elway's son's roommate in college. That's why
I don't care if he was John Elway's butler. He didn't deserve to be on that team. Just his draft decisions have not been good. Garrett Bowles has been a bust. Granted, like I said, he has made some good decisions with the skill position players and Lindsey, Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, those players. But what the team really needs is to win in the trenches, and they get their butts kicked in the trenches year in and year out for the last 3 seasons. The defense has been consistent, but until they fix that offensive line, they're not going to be a good team, and he hasn't. So thanks for the 3 Super Bowls, 2 as a player, 1 as a principal or a president, but it's time for him to go.
Okay, so what are you doing this offseason with the Denver Broncos? You're going to draft an offensive lineman. The kid out of Oregon, Sewell, who opted out this year, is projected to be a top 3 or 5 pick. Is that what you're doing? You're just going heavy on the offensive line? You get your linebacker back next season. You stay with Drew Lock. Maybe you fire the coach, but you got to go heavy on the offensive line, correct?
You got to go heavy on the offensive line. They still need some depth at linebacker. They are kind of lacking that a bit. The secondary, I think, is pretty good. They probably need some depth on that as well. But they have to focus on that offensive line. That is the one true piece that is still missing on that team.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Final question. Would you consider Denver Nuggets, now going back to them, a place, because let's be honest, since Carmelo Anthony left, it was only you draft players there and you build. Would you consider Denver now a place to be for off-season free agency who want to come play there?
Yeah, I have a hard time understanding why Denver can't keep and maintain high-profile free agents. I mean, they get players like Paul Millsap who are well past their prime.
Yeah, but he came
And
from Utah, though, so it's not
yeah,
like Like, I'm talking, are you going to steal? I think Denver with Malone, Jokic, and Murray would be a great place for a shooter or a scorer to want to come play.
you would think so, but apparently that's not the case still. Everyone here thought they had a great chance of keeping Jeremy Grant. He bounced. That was a huge letdown.
Are you disappointed that Plumlee left?
Eh,
Good role player, solid bench player.
a good role player. He didn't make or break that team. I mean, it hurts in a point where there's not veteran depth behind Jokic. They
had tremendous depth last year, even though they were hurt.
They have to depend a lot on Bobo moving forward now. But outside of that, he wasn't a huge contributing factor. They gotta stay healthy. I mean, I don't know what else to say. If they can stay healthy, their core five, starting five players, they're a really good team. But they just aren't. And if they can't figure that out, then they're not going to go much further.
Keith, love having you on. We'll definitely have you on for some NBA chat. And once the season's over, to see where the Broncos are going. If it's me, I would give Locke another year, but I would definitely get rid of Fangio. The problem with the problem with making Fangio the defensive coordinator, he's a very good coordinator like Wade Phillips. He's not a good coach. It's hard to get a head coach to relinquish power and then become the secondary guy once you ran the organization.
And that's why I say he has to go, because if I were him, I wouldn't want to go from head coach to defensive coordinator. I don't blame him for that. But if by some miracle he agrees to that, I don't mind him staying as a defensive coordinator. But I just don't think he or any other sane person would do that.
People love the picture. Congrats to your daughter for drawing that. How can we follow you and support you on social media?
I'm on Twitter at 5280 Keith. That's mainly where I live.
All right, Keith, thanks so much. We'll definitely have you down the road to talk NBA basketball. Love having you on. Have a good Sunday, my friend. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me again.
All right, take care. That was Keith Richards. Always does a good job. It's time now for the one and the only Rico. Show me the money, Graziano. Rico, I got some new backgrounds for us, some psychedelic backgrounds.
Nice. Ooh, I like that one.
You like this one? This isn't too busy right here? I thought it was a little too busy.
No, you know what? The Steeler symbol pops out on all.
Oh, would you stop? Would you stop with
it's that? 2 times on the bottom left. I'm telling you.
Okay, I'm going to tell you right now what I opened up with at the start of the show. The Steelers are in trouble. Okay, they just lost. They lost Devin Bush. They just lost their other defensive players. They can't run the ball. Rico, this team is in trouble. They're They're undefeated, and I have no confidence in them. Am I wrong here?
They're the most disrespected, undefeated team in NFL history. The most, and you know what? I was talking with somebody, my confidant, Levi, and he brought up a point. He's like, because he's so nice about it. He's like, the running isn't great. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, you lost your two of your 4 best defensive players. And I'm like, yeah, like it's a hard argument to have. I mean, if they can push through the rest of the season and get the first round bye, maybe that'll help them with a little bit of a rest before they have to face KC or the Titans or one of those other big teams. So, I mean, I have a lot of confidence.
You're not worried right now.
No, I'm very worried. But you know what? I just heard, I heard Keith talk about, Denver getting anywhere near their Super Bowl. And I'm wondering, I'm not saying he's delusional, but I'm just wondering.
No, he was saying if because their defense is very good, they have tremendous skill. First of all, the comments are going crazy for you. Does Rico have bedhead? They love your Batman sign. I don't know what's going on.
This is called. The governor of California shut down everything again, and especially barbershops. I don't know why he not only wants us to stay home, but he wants us to get ugly. And no, this is the best I could do. I was working on it. It's tough. It's a tough gig being.
And people like the Batman. They like the Batman posters back. We haven't seen that in a few weeks.
It's so funny. I watched a seminar on doing stuff like this, and they brought up 3 things not to do. They're like, don't have a pet around, don't have your kid around, and don't have too busy of a background. And I was like, well, check, and check. Broke all 3 of those rules.
Look at that. Love the beard.
Oh, thank you. The
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah,
I
the
love
dude.
that. The dude.
So you don't want you. So my background's too busy. That's what you're saying. My
No, I
background's
think your
beautiful.
background is great. It's for the plants. Look at that.
I'm
I'm
stepping up my
impressed.
game, Rico.
Your
Got to
mother's
step up my game.
walking around the kitchen looking for them.
Rico. So I'm going to tell you a quick funny story before we get to your picks and
Oh,
all the
Toby
stuff we
was
do.
a gangster.
Rico, listen to this. Okay, I was talking about the most popular day. You're married, so you don't have to worry about this. But the most popular day for people to sign up for dating websites is New Year's Day and February 15th. Rico, when I first moved to California, I signed up for eHarmony. I
I
filled out the 100 questionnaire, and I'm just about to pay. I was brutally honest. They rejected me, Rico.
I know. I as much as you think I don't watch the show prior to me coming on, I know. I heard you got
Were
me.
you laughing hysterically?
I was laughing because you got to remember, I lived out here. Me and you were very close at that time, and
Thank God we're not close anymore. Thank
I
God.
know, thank God. I mean, but you know what? I thought about it, and I said to myself, "There's a lucky girl out there who totally got lucky by skipping out on the trauma that you were about to bring her, and she's probably with a good guy, a little bit less baggage." You know what I'm saying? See, I did it, and the funny part was I was brutally lying.
Yeah,
And
so you got accepted?
oh, I totally got accepted. But I put it in pretty much that I wanted to end up with a girl who was evil. And, and I think I found it on a lot of levels prior to Melissa.
Rico, I'm so undateable. They wouldn't accept my money.
Do you think they wouldn't accept your money? I wish I could read that profile and what you put. You know what it was? They probably put a match algorithm and there were like 0 matches. And they were like, we can't live with a failure. We need to just like.
I'm glad that so many people are enjoying the pain of loneliness that I go through. Okay, Rico, look, you struggled last week. You lost, but you're still 9-3, so you're dominating. You beat me in fantasy football. You won 2 weeks in a row.
You know how nice it was watching the game, and then I saw Derrick Henry crushing it, and I was so broken.
Rico, they can't. Rico, you can see what I'm doing behind stage. They can't see what I'm doing. The camera, you see what I'm doing?
No, actually, you've moved me off.
Okay, I was flipping you the bird, Rico, right there.
You flipped me the bird. I was like,
but you're 5-7 against me.
It's so nice that it only took 1/4 of the next round, the 4:00 games to just elevate. I wish it was a little slower so I can enjoy picturing you do this.
You know what? George's got a good point. On my eHarmony questionnaire.
Right. I love Oregon. I literally bet against Oregon yesterday purely because of you.
I'm going to talk about that in my close. Okay, Rico, here are the games. 8-3, Browns at the 8-3 Titans. Brad Ward, huge Browns guy. We're going to have him on probably next week. Titans are favored by 6. I think the Titans roll here. The one good thing for Baker Mayfield is that the Titans are terrible at putting pressure on the quarterback, so he's going to have time to move and run and make plays. How do you see this game going out? Because, listen, I think this is going to be pivotal in what happens moving forward in the playoffs. Titans at Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns.
I like Cleveland in this game. I like Cleveland in this game because it's not history repeating itself. I feel like Tennessee is going to slip into the playoffs again, even though they are a better team. They're a team that should get in easier than they are, but I feel like they're going to just make the playoffs again. And again, history repeating itself. So that's where I'm at with this game.
Okay, so you're taking the Titans here.
Cleveland's a lot better than people want to believe. And if you give any quarterback a little time, anybody, you're going to get a little beaten up.
Okay, so give us a score here. You like the Browns to cover. You like them to win or to cover and win?
I think they're going to win outright,
wow.
23-17.
Wow. Browns win. Okay, 7-4 Rams at the 6-5 Cardinals. The Rams are favored by 3. I love giving Rico Rams games because he's 1-5 when he has to pick the Rams. He cannot get this team right. When he picks them to win, they lose. When he picks them to lose, they win. George Lopez must have been texting you all day about this game over the past few days. What do we got here?
Well, the thing about this game is that my buddy who always bets the Rams bet me the Rams and then texted me a little bit later and said, forget it, I'm not betting the Rams game. And I said, why? He goes, because they suck. And that was his response. So I'm actually going to take the Rams in this game, and I think they're
Rico,
going to
you're
win.
1-5 picking Rams games. Why
I
can't you
know,
get this team right?
I know. No, a majority of that 5 was me betting against the Rams.
Right.
So this time I'm taking the Rams.
Okay, so what's the score here?
George says it. When George says the Rams match up well with a team, that means they do. And I think it's going to be 28-17. I think the Rams are going to roll a little bit.
So the Rams win and they cover.
Yes, win and cover.
Listen, everyone loves the fact that you're picking the Browns.
Yeah, I think the Browns are a better team than people want to believe. I mean, they got Nick Chubb back there. They got Jarvis Landry. They got Odell Beckham on the IR. A lot of good things happening there.
Okay, listen, the San Francisco 49ers averaged 260 passing yards with Jimmy Garoppolo. They averaged 270 passing yards with Mullins. They're getting healthy. This is not an easy game for the Bills, who are favored by 2.5. This is a must-win for 49ers to keep their playoff hopes alive. How do you see this game playing out?
I think this game, that whenever there's a must-win, it's the NFL, and I don't think that it's going to happen that way. I think Buffalo's just a better team all around, and to think that Buffalo isn't going to step up to the plate, I think the spread is low. I love Buffalo in this game, 38-21. There's going to be scoring, so if you have fantasy, I think this is a good game to play on a little bit with some third spot receivers. But that's my thing on this game. Murray's hurt. Ooh.
I don't know who the dude is, but he's got the coolest profile picture of him surfing right there.
He is. He does seem very cool, and that looks very Hawaiian-ish.
Yes, it does. All right, Rico. So you're taking the Browns to win the game over the Titans. You're 1-5 against the Rams. You're picking the Rams, and you're taking the Bills in a rout over the 49ers.
Well, 38-21. I guess it's a rout. They'll clearly cover. I like the Bills a lot in this game. Not as much as I like the Giants, even though that's not on my thing. I do like the Giants with 10.5 points. I think they're a team that's coming together, even though Daniel Jones isn't going to be quarterbacking. I still think I think it's Colt McCoy back there today. I'm not sure.
Let me explain one thing to you about Seattle. Seattle has 19 sacks over the last 4 games since they acquired the defensive player from Cincinnati, and Jamal Adams has been healthy. They have 5 more sacks than any team in the NFL over that time. Seattle's going to roll the Giants this weekend. Roll.
We'll see. We'll see. I do not agree with you. That would be one of my lock picks.
Wow. Okay, Rico, so you've driven in a lot of Uber. I told an Uber story today, right? You've driven in a lot of Uber. Anytime you get into an Uber, the driver wants to tell you what he really does in his life or she does in his life. I had an Uber driver that was a life coach. He was a life coach. And I said to him, you should hire yourself because you've been a life coach for 5 years. Would you agree you take a ton of Uber? They always want to talk about their other jobs.
I can't tell you how many actors, writers, and singers I've been driven around by, which actually makes me even more nervous that I'm being driven around by an actor, a singer, or a writer in LA. And yeah, they all, what I actually like what's been happening right before was a lot of people I don't think spoke English because their GPS was in another language. And as much as it didn't make me as comfortable as I would like to be, I kind of was like, at least I ain't got to talk to them about anything. Because when they start engaging, look at I got to call them during the week and I'll give you a thorough breakdown.
All right, Rico, it's that time for fantasy football. You obviously won last week. You've won 2 weeks in a row. I'm kicking butt in all my fantasy football leagues. So when I lose to you, it really bothers me.
I got out of 6 teams, I'm in first place in 4 of them, and already a lock for the playoffs for 3 of them.
Out of 4 leagues, I'm in. First of all, there's nothing worse than when people talk about their fantasy football at work or on a show. Out of 4 leagues, I'm in first place in 3 of them. So you get the first pick of the draft. What quarterback are you taking?
This is the thing. I don't know if I've taken Aaron Rodgers twice.
This is the second time you're taking him. So okay. Rodgers. Okay.
Rodgers.
I'm taking Russell.
It hurts me a little bit to take him so soon.
Yes, yes, it does.
Maybe I might have to pull that one back a little bit.
I'm taking Russell Wilson. This is the second time I've taken him.
That's who I was looking at. But you know what? I don't like that game with Russell. I don't like that matchup with him.
I love that matchup. So just to be on the record here, you cannot take Rodgers. You cannot take Murray. You cannot take Holmes. You cannot take Wilson. I can't take Wilson. I can't take Mahomes. And I can't take Kyler Murray. Those are the six. So I'll send you the list. So we're running out of quarterbacks to take. I can still take Rodgers. You can't. I'm taking Wilson. All right. I'm taking Derrick Henry as my running back against the Browns. I think Henry is the key to success. I think he has 100 rushing yards and at least one touchdown.
Well, you know,
Dalvin Cook, right?
You know it's going to be Dalvin Cook. You got Madison out who had appendicitis. He's going to so Dalvin Cook's going to go from 30 touches a game to 40 touches
the
this
only
game.
problem there is he's nursing a hamstring injury. So, they say they're going to try to limit him to 25 carries, by the way.
Yeah, they asked him about that in an interview. He was very bitter that they were talking to him about that.
Okay, I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Nick Chubb. I think he does a tremendous job. The thing about Cleveland is they want to run the ball about 35, 40 times. I don't like the distribution. I think they're playing Kareem Hunt too much, and this affects me in fantasy football, but I'm going with Nick Chubb.
Well, I'm going with somebody who has carried me, my 15th rounder in fantasy football draft, James Robertson from Jacksonville.
Yeah, listen.
He has been my league winner. I haven't.
No, he's been a sleeper. He's been a sleeper.
The 4 leagues I'm in first place. He's my running back in all. I've had him in all 4 leagues, and I picked him up my last pick in almost every draft.
Great pick. Who are you taking for your wide receiver?
Well, since he did me so beautiful last week, it's hard to go against him because Mr. Hill. I don't even want to call him Tyreek Hill. I don't. The respect I have for him, Mr. Hill from Kansas City will be my wide receiver.
Did someone just ding you in saying that's a great pick? Because I heard your phone go off or something. What was that?
Yeah, somebody's. I think it's Levi. I'm not looking.
Okay.
I spoke up too fast.
I'm going to go with the guy who's up there in leading reception. I'm going to go with Stephon Diggs. He hasn't had big games for me, but I really like him in Buffalo. Like you said, I think they're going to score points. I know Richard Sherman is back now, but I don't think Richard Sherman is an elite defensive back anymore. Do you?
No. I don't think Richard Sherman is by far an elite defensive back.
Okay, I keep getting into an argument with Jared. Okay, I keep getting into an argument. Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the league, right? I mean, it's not even close.
I mean, who would he think? Who? Mark Andrews? Who else?
He keeps saying Kittles. I said Kittles is not healthy. He likes Waller.
Kittles played like 5 games this year.
Yeah. So I mean, Travis Kelce is the best tight end, right?
Yeah, I think Travis Kelce clearly is the best tight end.
Okay, who's your next wide receiver?
My next wide receiver, now you got to remember, even though I'm picking him against the Giants and I like the Giants to win, it's a 10.5-point spread. So I'm going with DK Metcalf.
Rico, are you concerned that DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett always alternate, and Tyler Lockett has had a couple of weeks where they haven't been that great. He hasn't been that great. Are you like, hey, maybe it's Tyler Lockett? Do you ever weigh into that consideration?
Well, I do weigh into the consideration, but Pete Carroll, he rides the horse that's running great. There's no reason to, I can't see any reason to change that. And you know what? When you have 1-2 wide receiver, they both can have a great game. If as a coach you choose to do that.
Okay, I'm going to take Devontae Adams. I don't know why you didn't pick him as one of your 2 wide receivers. I have him down, but part of me wanted me to. Every time Russell Wilson throws a touchdown, it's not really. Rico, so the background here, you don't like this one. You like this one better.
I like that one. Even though it's busy, we're a busy show. Monte.
What about this one?
That's cute, but you don't see everybody. I don't want. I see the Steeler helmet in that one.
Okay, obviously,
you want to see your team. This way, you see your team. It is busy, but again, we're busy.
I'm going to go with Waller just because I think the Raiders are going to dominate the Jets, and I think they're going to take away Travis Kelce as much as they can. Denver will stop them for a half, and then the floodgates will open. So I'm assuming you're taking Travis Kelce.
Well, you know what? I wasn't sure about it, but now that you just reminded me, he's the best tight end in the NFL.
No, he is. No doubt.
Even though I'm taking Tyreek Hill again, I think 2 wide receivers can crush it in one game.
Okay, so you can take Travis Kelce.
Yes, I'm taking Travis.
All right, and your defense.
So I was going to go KC against Denver, but you know what? I have to show a little love for my boys, and I'm gonna take Pittsburgh. I'm gonna take Pittsburgh against Washington. I think
you might just pencil that in as you know, every week Rico's taking the Steelers defense every week.
I need to. You know what? I got to show some love because I don't like touching any of their offensive players because they have too many wide receivers. There is no run game. I know. And this is a game that got pushed. This game should have been a forfeit by the Ravens. There's a lot of
lot going on. Rico, I'm going to take Seattle's defense, and here's why. 19 sacks over the last 4 games with, like we said, with Adams and Dunlop. They are playing much better. The Giants have no quarterback situation, so I'm going to take Seattle. I'm going to take Adams to have a couple of sacks, couple turnovers, and there we have it. Listen, you're down 5-7 to me. You've won 2 weeks in a row. If you lose this week, it's all but over.
Range. I'm right there, buddy. I'm right there. After I take this week, we're back in a battle.
All right, Rico, it is one of our favorite – it's one of the favorite parts of the show because people never know what the hell you're going to talk about. Some people say, I don't know what the hell Rico said, but does he ever make sense? And I said, imagine hanging out with him for an hour. You just get a couple minutes here. So it's Rico's rant. Go for it.
Well, here we go. I mean, my rant is lately I've been being a degenerate playing poker at night. So like online poker. And I realized that I feel like I'm a sucker. I feel like I'm being played and that I'm playing against a bunch of bots. So I came to this realization that if you think you're being suckered and you feel like you're being suckered, that you're being suckered. And I think I need to take that in my life on all situations, that if think I'm being lied to and I feel like I'm being lied to, I'm probably being lied to. So the lesson here is trust your instinct, trust your growth, trust what you think is right, even though it may be wrong, but the odds are very heavy in your favor that you're right. If you think it, you feel it, and you kind of assume it on top of it.
Unless, of course, Rico, you're like me, who's George Costanza. Every instinct I have, every decision I make, including having you on the show every week, is the opposite of what a normal person would do. I have to take umbrage with what you just said. You said lately I've been a degenerate. What do you mean lately?
A little more than usual. Like I put Melissa to bed, I put Giovanni to bed, and then I sneak out of bed, get the computer. I literally sit in the living room in the dark, the TV on pause on like the Netflix where you see the little background that's weird happening, and then it clicks to pictures of like old pictures of my phone, and I'm just sitting there and I'm in the dark and I'm playing poker.
Are you winning money?
I actually know what's funny is that like for the first 3 weeks I was getting crushed, and then I sent an email saying to them that I feel like there's a lot of bots because I'm playing the same people every night, even though I'm there every night, and all of a sudden they started to change a little bit. So I think that I've dealt with a problem because, there's no way that I could lose the way I was losing in the beginning because I was like, just didn't make sense. I played the game long enough to know that I'm okay at it.
There are 2 things that amaze me in life. Is that I talked to someone yesterday and they still think that Donald Trump cares about the middle class. And the other thing that amazes me is my mom and family members and people who follow the show think Rico is a nice, good guy. He's a degenerate.
No. They accept me for my degeneracy. Again, another word I've completely made up today. They know who I am. 1-800-GAMBLER.
What is this? The best way to play online poker is in the dark with no one there in the living room by yourself.
Oh yeah, it's the only way to play. You got to really. It's like if you're gonna get off on something, you need to just be by yourself, focused. Like it's not one of those things that you need to have a public around distraction. I don't need a kid.
You sent an email saying there's too many of the same people you're playing against, but you do it every night.
I text them and I sent them an email and I sent like 5 emails. What I do is like if I send an email to customer service, I'll send it again like 4 times in a row, back to back to back to back. That's how I usually get a response pretty quickly.
Yeah, like you're stalking them, and so they have to get until you get a restraining order.
I feel like I'm playing against bots. Is what ways do you check if you're, what are your? Because they say that they pay attention to that, but then within like 3 days, all of a sudden, few of these people that were on every day who seem to be like, they have an algorithm and whatnot, but they were gone. So I'm wondering, or maybe their wives caught them, gambling in the dark.
It's funny that we bring up stalking. It's amazing. It's amazing how things change. In high school, I was considered shy. Now they call it stalking because I'm in the bushes. I'm watching certain things. I was just shy in high school.
Yeah, but you're old school stalking. I don't even know if that's called stalking anymore. Like stalking now is like people do it online. Stalking, you're an original.
Rico, is this true?
New code for porn? Question mark.
Are you watching porn at night and they're not calling it? Why
No,
do you keep looking to the left? Are you being held hostage? Blink twice if you are. Why do you keep looking to the right?
Because you know what? I keep looking. We have the ornaments outside, and we become like a spectacle. Like people bring their kids past our house because we have so much stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I keep seeing on the side, like the kids are running around my lawn because I told them, go ahead, touch the balloons. You can't really pop them because they're made with some satin stuff or whatever. So I just let them go. And my sister's like, do you hear them at night? I'm like, why? She's like, I go to sleep at 9 o'clock. I hear kids in front of the house running around, screaming. And then sometimes the parents don't let them play with the stuff and then they cry. So I've been it's been fun. It's actually been fun to listen to them. And I actually kind of creep because I want to see how much fun they're having. And I don't want to go out.
I'm sure when they see you late at night looking at a computer in the dark, they don't get too scared. All you need is a white van, Rico.
Terrible when you say it like that.
All you need is a white van. Come on, kids, I have candy for you. I don't like where this is going.
No.
Rico is not Santa because Rico would have to give to millions of people.
Exactly. There's a selfish part of me that I just can't stop taking. I just love it. It just feels so much. I like giving, but taking feels so much better.
Rico, let's just end it right there. We're supposed to end on a positive note, but that is the very definition of selfish and narcissist. So we're going to end it right there, Rico.
I'm a narcissist. Selfish, yeah. I mean, I'll call it what it is.
Rico, got to tell you, the hair's out of control today.
You know what? It's literally I don't even know what to do about it. They shut down the barbershops. I'm gonna have to have Melissa cut my hair again, or my sister. Somebody, they've locked this down to saying that you're only allowed to be with people who are in your household. So you would think about how terrible that'd be for Well, you're fine. So
no, listen to me. Listen, all I got to say is you could take people away from their jobs if you want to be safe, but you got to pay them to stay home. You can't just expect people to stay home and not get paid.
Oh, no, it doesn't matter. Nobody listens in California anyway, because the police department and the sheriff's department already said they're not going to enforce those laws. So at the end of the day, nobody's really listening out here, but barbershops are closed.
That is a great way to end it because you just said one of our favorite saying at the end of the day. So we'll end with the shot right there. Rico, thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Love you. See you guys.
Rico, no show Tuesday because the NFL's on. They're trying to keep us down.
I know, because our show was so hot on Tuesday nights.
Yes, exactly. All right, Rico, have a good one. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the games. That was Rico, Show Me the Money, Graziano. And look, we're going to get to the end of the show. My extra point right now. Look, guys, I'm just going to say it. The Oregon Ducks, lost back-to-back games. They lost to Oregon State, who's terrible, and they lost to an 0-3 California Bears team. Mario Cristobal, when he was at FIU, the Oregon Duck coach, was 27-47 as a head coach. He is now 16-7 in the Pac-12. I'm starting to think that Justin Herbert, the quarterback, made Mario Cristobal's career. Again, Cristobal was 27-47 at FIU. He spent 5 years with Nick Saban as an offensive line coach, an offensive coach. I thought he learned something with Nick Saban, but he hasn't. Now, let's talk about Alabama because no one is talking about them on the national spotlight. They are 9-0. They just beat LSU 55-17. They're averaging 49.2 points per game, which is third in the country. On third down, Mac Jones, without their number one wide receiver, who's out for the year, is completing 57%. That means on third down, they get a first down 57% of the time. Alabama is by far the best team in the country. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to see them in the national championship again. I do, because I like greatness. I like people who are grinders like Nick Saban, despite COVID, despite injuries. Mac Jones, not Mac Brown. Mac Jones is killing it as quarterback. This is the best offensive team Nick Saban has ever had, and they deserve all the credit in the world. Good for you, Alabama. Roll Tide. I want to thank Karita Parks joining us to talk about the Washington football team and the Washington Wizards. I want to thank Keith Richards for talking about the Denver Broncos, the NFL, and the Denver Nuggets. And I want to thank Rico. Show me the money, Graziano. And most of all, I want to thank you. Guys, look, we're getting close to our goal. If you like this show, tell one friend, tell one family member, repost this on your social media sites. We are third on YouTube for sports shows. So please continue to do this. Continue to do this, because our goal is to do this show 5 days a week, and we can only do that with your help. And the immortal words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back.